What's going on, guys? Welcome back into the channel. And in today's video, we're going to be discussing a tip that I have for you that I personally utilize within career mode on FIFA in order to determine which players I want to add to the team, in order to determine potentials and things of that nature. If you're anything like me, you probably hop onto FIFA. Some of you probably play it more committed than I do. I play it pretty casually, but I've been playing a lot of it lately as something fresh, something entertaining for me to do with my spare time. And so I've been trying to build a squad down here in Argentina, and you know that people like to build the best squad that they possibly can. And when you start with a squad like this, even if you do the financial takeover option, you're really not going to have a whole lot of options to bring in fantastic players. So if you're like me, you end up wanting to find players that have high potential. Well, it's kind of difficult because from the actual franchise menu, you can try to tell your scouts to scout the high potential prolific type of players, and you'll see right here I get a bunch of players popping up. I can go to my scout instructions and I'm telling them to scout promising, pacey, tall and promising players, and it's going to come back with a bunch of players that I can certainly scout. And when I scout those players, it will come back with a scout report on those players, sometimes giving me the overall, sometimes I need to scout those players further, but nonetheless you're really only going to get certain ratings for those players. For example, if I wanted to sign Von Kiss here, I would only really know his actual current attributes. There's really no way to know what his actual potential is as a player. And with a lot of these generic players, that is always going to be the case. Your best bet is to take a look at their player value, which is mostly based on their player overall, but take a look at their age, take a look at their ratings, and determine what you want from there. But there's a much better, much more effective way to do it with the base roster of the game, with players that are actually within the game. If I wanted to find out what a certain player's potential is, so I know whether to add them to my team or not, and if I want to do this and find out an overall at the start of the career mode without ever even scouting a player to begin with, to even find out their overall to begin with, which is a bit of a pain anyway, then there's a better way to do it. So let's go ahead and dive into that. You'll notice that I have pulled up a browser, I've pulled up a specific website search, and you guys can do this from your phone, from your computer. I luckily have my computer screen right next to me, so it makes it even easier, but I used to do this for years from my phone, and this is not sponsored, this is not promotion or anything. This is just a site that I found that happens to work really well for this purpose and is extremely accurate, and that is going to be FUTWiz. So we can just click on the main website here, and that's going to give us a host of different options, things that you guys can go to do with your FIFA, but I think this is primarily made for FIFA Ultimate Team, but at the top you'll see that there is a career option and a couple of different things you can click on. As you can see, it has all the way back to FIFA 19. I've been using this for a couple of years. I'll just click on FIFA 23 career mode players, and I'll search that way. You guys can search by highest growth, which is another great way to find players that will grow into fantastic players for you, or players that are of high value to sell. So FIFA career mode here, for example, let's say right on the screen we were talking about Bruno Emione, that center back that had popped up on the screen. So let me just type in his name, for example, and it will pop up with that guy and show me exactly what his stats are. I just simply have to click on him, and it'll then show he's a 69 overall to start and has the potential of an 82. That's absolutely fantastic to be able to see. So how do you then utilize this site to find the best players for you? Well, like I said, you can go to career highest growth, which you can also sort here, and that's going to tell you guys some super low overall players that have a ton of growth in them. So you can see one of the top players here can get up to an 85 overall, is only a 59 overall, and in fact, if you click into that player, you can see what their value is, their wage is, their contract, and everything. So you can see that he's only currently valued at 210k. Well, this is a free 85 overall player within a couple of years with good progression, and you can get them for next to nothing. You could probably get this player on any team within the game if you just simply made a little bit of room for them. So yeah, it might be difficult to progress a player like that, but you can find players anywhere and everywhere that you could possibly want here. You can go in and you can just simply search by players that only have 85 or better potential, and then you can also sort by growth, and it's going to put the highest growth players that then have 85 potential or better up at the top of the list. And now again, it's going to give you a lot of these players that are fantastic options for you. Okay, well, let's say that you want to maybe find players that are going to be cheap for you. You can do an advanced search here, and you can simply search by free agents. So we can go to the free agency league right here and select free agents and search. And there you go. We can do the same thing. We can sort by growth in here, and you guys can see these are all free agent players that are free to you that are going to have a ton of growth. Now, you're not technically going to see a lot of high potential players here, but you can find some very solid additions to your team. Like with this Argentina squad, I specifically have Ibrahim Danlad as a free agent that I added immediately because I knew that that's a high growth goalkeeper that can get up to a reasonable overall that's going to help my team out immediately. So we were talking about players with 85 potential or better. Let's go ahead and say 86 potential or better, and let's try to eliminate all of these guys, because realistically, are we going to be able to afford all of these 91s, 90s, 89s, so on and so forth if we're playing with just a average squad or a small squad like this? Probably not. We're probably not going to be able to afford those players. So what we can then do instead is we can sort by rating. So let's say we want players that have that high of a potential, but under a 79 overall. So we can then see players that are under a 79 that have 86 plus potential. We can then sort by growth, again, take it one step further, and we now see players that are going to be super low value right now, but can grow to be massively successful players. One of the best players here, Antonio Nusa, is a player that I specifically added to my team because he is a low value 68 overall that can grow into one of the elite players within the world. And that's not it. You can use this for even more attributes than that. You can search by speed. Let's say I only want to have players that have 85 plus speed. Well, you can do that. And I've now narrowed down a very nice little list here of players that I can target. And you'll see that there are even players like Nusa, for example, that are down into the 60s and 70s. So if you're on a team with a half decent budget, you could maybe add 3, 4, even more of these players without any problem to your team, knowing that they're going to turn into 86 plus overalls if you develop them correctly and play well with them and turn into super high value players for your team or for the market. One of the other things that I like to do here is sort for sizable players. So let's say we're looking for 80 or better potential, 79 or below. Let's talk about maybe 75 sprint speed or better, because these players can get better with their sprint speed, for example. But instead, now I want to look for players that are maybe 6'4" or taller. And I can search for all those criteria. And again, you're going to now pop up with a list of players that fall into those categories. So you guys can see there are actually quite a few players with really good potential that are low overall, that are tall and relatively decently pacey. I don't want to call them pacey because they're 70 plus, but you'll see that those players are right here. And again, you can sort this by the categories up at the top. So if of these players I want to know who is the fastest, I can sort by their sprint speed, which I was searching for, and I can now see that, okay, maybe the best fit for my team would be Mickey Van de Ven, or however you pronounce his name, or maybe it's Benjamin Sesko, or maybe it's, I'm not even going to try to pronounce that name. So those are some of the ways that you can use this site to benefit yourself in career mode without having to do all that extra rigmarole of searching for players and not really knowing what their potential is anyway. I do like that factor. If you want to play a franchise realistically, certainly by all means go ahead and do that. That's a great way to do it, and I do that from time to time, not using this site to find players for my squad, but sometimes I just want to make a beast squad and I just want to have fun. And so this is the easiest way I've found to do it, because you can't even find it out within the game itself. And now obviously I'm not the most experienced FIFA player out there, but from my experience, there's nothing you can do here within actual career mode to actually see development or anything like that, or ratings on these players in that way that you would in another game. So for example, if I go into one of these players and let's say I click on Nusa, for example, who is literally one of the players we were just talking about, and everything's going to be grayed out. There's just simply no way for me to get to his ratings or anything like that, to be able to edit it, to be able to look at his overall potential or anything like that. Likewise, I can go to the main menu and I can go and try to edit a player, but it's still not going to allow me to see any of those stats that I'm really looking for. So let's say we're just looking at this goalkeeper here, for example. I can go in and actually see his attributes here. That does show up, but it's not going to show me any of his potential. So I could come over here to the main menu and I could drop into a match, whatever. There's a couple of different ways to see actual players' overalls and know what overall a player is that you're potentially targeting. But then in the game, you don't know their value. And when you go to sign that player, you don't know what wage to give them necessarily to start off with. But using that site, you can see what wage the player already has, what value the player already has, and you know in contract negotiations exactly what to give that player. But like I said, speaking on this point, attacking, defending, skill, power, none of this is actually the player's potential overall. None of that is available here. You can't simply edit it. It's unfortunate that that's not something you can do, but that is kind of the realism of the game. They try to hide that from you, which I don't mind. I wish other games actually did that. I wish that they would potentially hide those things from you, but you can see scrolling through every single one of these, there's nothing related to a player's potential. So let's just say, for example, that I want to go in and negotiate with Bruno Amioni, for example. I don't know his value. I don't know his wage. I'm not going to be able to have a successful negotiation to try to add this player to the team, despite the fact that I can't add him anyway because my squad is already full. But nonetheless, I can't approach him and successfully do anything with him because I don't know what his overall is. I don't know what his value is. I don't know what wage he's on right now. So I might come in and offer him a wage that I think is fair for a player that looks like he has those specific stats, but in the end, I embarrass myself and get laughed out the door because I didn't come in with the right wage offer. I didn't come in with the right value transfer-wise for that player. And so that's why this site is so useful. And if you didn't know about it, I hope that this does help you now, and I hope that if that did help you and this does become useful to you, that you'll leave a like on the video, that you'll subscribe to the channel for future gaming tips, and that you'll comment down below letting me know that it helped you and letting me know what other resources you use. Because like I said, I'm not the most experienced FIFA player, so if there is a resource that you use that is potentially better, or there's something that I'm missing within the game, let me know that. I'd be free to hear those suggestions. So as always, I hope that you guys enjoyed. Leave that feedback down below. Check out my Patreon. Link is in the description. I'll see you guys in the next video, and I hope you have a good one.